That satisfying moment when you peel the plastic off a brand new phone, the fresh screen, the faster camera, the box that smells like possibility. I get it, I really do. But that little ritual might be costing you a house down payment. And I'm not exaggerating. Let's talk about the upgrade trap. Here's where this starts. The average flagship phone now costs somewhere between $1,000 and $1,200. Some models push past that, and millions of people buy a new one every single year. Not because their old phone broke, not because it stopped working, but because there's a new color, a slightly better camera, an extra hour of battery life. I did this for years. Every September, like clockwork, I'd convince myself I needed the latest version. My old phone worked perfectly fine, but somehow holding it felt embarrassing once the new commercials started running. That's not an accident. Billions of dollars go into making you feel that way. But here's the math that changed how I think about this. Let's say you're 25 years old. You buy a new phone every year for $1,100. You do this until you're 65. That's 40 years of annual upgrades. 40 times 1,100 is $44,000, just on phones. That's already a lot. But wait, it gets worse. That $44,000 assumes money just sits there doing nothing. Money doesn't have to do nothing. Money can work. So let's see what happens if you kept your phones for 3 years instead of 1 and invested the difference. If you upgrade every 3 years instead of every year, you're buying roughly 13 phones over 40 years instead of 40 phones. That saves you about $29,700 in direct spending alone. But here's where it gets interesting. Let's say every year, instead of buying a new phone, you put that $1,100 into a basic index fund. An index fund is just a basket of stocks that tracks the overall market. You don't have to pick winners. You just ride along with the economy. Historically, these have returned around 7 to 10% per year on average over long periods. Let's use a conservative number, 7%. If you invested $1,100 every single year for 40 years at 7% average returns, you'd end up with approximately $239,000. That's not a typo, almost $250,000 from skipping phone upgrades. Now, you won't skip every upgrade. That's not realistic. But if you just stretched your phone cycle from 1 year to 3 years, you'd invest around $730 extra per year. That's the difference between upgrading annually and upgrading every 3 years. Over 40 years at 7%, that $730 per year grows to about $158,000. Even if we're more conservative and say you only do this for 30 years, you're still looking at over $70,000 from keeping your phone 1 extra year at a time. This is the concept of opportunity cost. Every dollar you spend on something is a dollar you can't spend or invest in something else. Your phone doesn't just cost $1,100, it costs $1,100 plus everything that money could have become. Now I can hear the objections already, and they're fair. Let's address them. But I get trade-in credit. True. You might get $300 to $500 for your old phone. That helps. But you're still paying $600 to $800 for a device that does roughly the same thing as what you already had. The trade-in doesn't eliminate the cost. It just makes you feel better about it. And phone companies know this. The trade-in offer exists specifically to lower your psychological resistance to buying. But I need the new features for work. Okay, some people genuinely do. If you're a professional photographer or videographer, maybe that camera upgrade matters. If you're a developer testing apps, maybe you need current hardware. But be honest with yourself. Most of us aren't in that category. Most of us are watching the same YouTube videos and scrolling the same apps. But my phone gets slow after a year. This one's interesting. Phones do slow down, but usually not because the hardware is failing. It's often because new software updates are designed for newer phones. Here's a weird trick. Sometimes doing a factory reset on your current phone makes it feel brand new again. I know that sounds annoying, but it's a lot less annoying than spending $1,000. But the financing makes it affordable. This is the sneakiest one. When you're paying $30 a month instead of $1,100 upfront, it doesn't feel like a big purchase. Your brain processes it as a small subscription. But it's not a subscription to a service. It's a subscription to always having debt on a depreciating gadget. Your phone loses value every single day you own it. Financing just hides the true cost by spreading it thin. Here's something that took me way too long to understand. Companies don't offer financing because they want to help you afford things. They offer financing because it increases how much you're willing to spend. Studies show people spend more when they pay with credit than with cash. Financing is even more removed than credit cards. It's practically invisible spending, and phones are just the beginning. This same pattern shows up everywhere. New car every 3 years, latest laptop, upgraded headphones, the newest gaming console plus the upgraded version 18 months later. Subscription boxes for stuff you forget you're getting. Each one feels small, each one feels justified, but they stack. The average American household spends over $300 a month on subscriptions alone. That's $3,600 per year. Over 40 years, invested at 7%, that's over $780,000 from subscription services. I'm not saying you should never spend money on things you enjoy. That's not the point. Money is a tool. It's supposed to make your life better. If the latest phone genuinely brings you joy and you've thought about the trade-off, great. Spend consciously. The problem is unconscious spending. Spending because it's what you've always done. Spending because the payment plan made it easy. Spending because everyone around you is doing it. Spending because you forgot to ask yourself if you actually wanted this, or if you were just trained to want it. So, what do you actually do with this information? Here's a framework that works for me. Before any purchase over $200, I calculate what I call the future value. It's not complicated. I just multiply the purchase price by 6. That roughly represents what that money could become in 20 years if invested at around 7%. So that $1,100 phone, its future value is around $6,600. That doesn't mean I never buy it, but it does mean I ask myself, would I pay $6,600 for this thing? Sometimes the answer is still yes. When my laptop died last year, I spent $1,400 on a replacement, future value of $8,400. Was it worth it? Absolutely. I use that laptop 8 hours a day. It directly contributes to my income. Easy, yes. But a new phone when my current one works fine? Future value of $6,600 for a slightly faster processor and a camera I'll use to take pictures of my lunch? Harder to justify. The other thing I do is what I call the wait test. When I want something, I put it on a list. If I still want it in 30 days, I'll consider buying it. You'd be amazed how many things fall off that list. The initial desire fades. You realize you didn't actually want the thing. You wanted the feeling of getting something new. That feeling doesn't last anyway. Might as well save yourself the money. Look, your phone is your phone. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. But I spent years in the upgrade trap without realizing how much it was actually costing me. Not just the sticker price, the opportunity cost, the future I was trading for a marginally better selfie camera. When I finally did the math, I felt a little sick, and then a little free, because once you see the pattern, you can choose differently. That $50,000 in the title? It's real. It might actually be higher depending on your specific habits. And it's not about deprivation. It's about making sure you're spending intentionally on things that actually matter to you, not just things you've been marketed into wanting. If this made you think even a little differently about your next upgrade, consider subscribing to Like Your 5. We break down money stuff like this every week. No jargon, no judgment, just real math and real talk. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.